where the tragedy has once again struck the state of Uttarakhand, a state that's become heartbreakingly familiar with disaster. On Tuesday, Tharali village in Uttarkashi district was hit by devastating twin cloudburst, sending torrents of water crashing through hillside, sweeping away homes, roads and lives. So far, at least 4 people have confirmed died and about 50 people are missing. Rescue teams are racing against time, combing through the debris and mud in hopes of finding survivors. And while relief and rescue operations are currently underway in both Sukhi and Tharali, questions that continue to haunt us is why does this keep happening in the hill state of Uttarakhand? Now, Uttarakhand sits at the top of Himalayan region. It's one of the most ecologically fragile and geologically active regions in the world. Its steep mountain slopes force warm, moisture-heavy monsoon winds upward, forming intense cloud systems. And when those cloud bursts, the rain comes down all at once and violently. Heartbreaking and disaster scenes there coming in from Tharali as well as Sukhi top. But what happened in Tharali isn't an isolated event. It's a part of a pattern, one that's getting worse. Climate change is reshaping monsoons, making it less predictable, more intense and far more destructive. But the damage isn't all natural. Human activity has made things worse. Unregulated construction of roads, dams and hotels in an ecologically sensitive zone has blocked nature's own drainage system. Forests have been cleared, hillsides have been cut into and rivers forced to change course. As a result, the land simply cannot absorb water the way it used to. And the rain that was once soaked into the soil now rushes downhill with deadly speed, flooding villages, triggering landslides and wiping out everything in its path. And what we are seeing in Tharali is not just a natural disaster, it's a climate disaster worsened by human decisions. And as search teams continue their desperate mission in Uttarkashi, it's time we ask, can Uttarakhand bear the cost of this unchecked development? And how many more lives will it take before we treat the Himalayas not as a real estate property, but as a living, breathing ecosystem?
पूरा बर्बाद हो गया। यहाँ पे हमारा कल्प केदार मंदिर तो सारा पता ही नहीं चल रहा है कि यहाँ पे कब मार्केट भी था। यहाँ पे आप देख सकते हो बहुत ही बुरी, और अभी कोई ये नहीं है कि आ भी सकती है। अभी
उत्तरकाशी जनपद के धराली क्षेत्र में बादल फटने की अभी सूचना आई है और बहुत तेज गति से मलबा आया है पानी के साथ। हमारा प्रयास है कि इस समय में सभी को जल्दी से जल्दी राहत के काम किए जाएं, बचाव के कार्य किए जाएं। जिला प्रशासन के लोग वहां पहुंच रहे हैं, साथ में हमारे सेना के लोग, एनडीआरएफ, एसडीआरएफ, आपदा प्रबंधन विभाग लगातार कोशिश कर रहा है कि हमारी सर्वोच्च प्राथमिकता है कि सभी को इस समय राहत की जाए, सभी को बचाया जाए और हर प्रकार से जान माल की सुरक्षा की जाए।
धराली में खीर गंगा है गदेरा, जिसमें ऊपर जैसा वीडियो में भी हम देख पा रहे हैं कि क्लाउड बस्ट होने से काफ़ी पानी एक साथ आया है, एकदम से आया है। और चूँकि वहाँ पे गेस्ट हाउस हैं और छोटे रेस्टोरेंट भी हैं और होटल्स भी हैं, तो उसी के मद्देनज़र हमने अपना आर्मी का टीम हरसेल की है, उनको मैंने रिक्वेस्ट करके तुरंत भिजवा दिया था। और उनका भी एक अभी मेरे फ़ोन पे अभी नेटवर्क पे मेरे कनेक्टिविटी थोड़ा वीक हो रहा है, वहाँ पे कनेक्ट नहीं हो पा रहा है, लेकिन कुछ एक लॉसेस की सूचना है। तो 4 लोगों का उन्होंने मुझे बताया था कि लॉस का आया है और प्रॉपर्टी का लॉसेस भी है।
All right, joining us on the show is Avinash Mohanty. He's a global sector head at IPE Global. Thank you very much, Mr. Mohanty, for taking time out for joining us on the show. Let's quickly try and understand what's happening here in Uttarkashi. We have now established it clearly by the way of various researches that have been conducted, various geological experts who visited the site of Uttarakhand, the disaster-prone areas in Uttarakhand, that partly what's happening in Uttarakhand is got to do with nature's fury. But the unchecked development is also hugely responsible for the number of lives that are lost every time a tragedy strikes Uttarakhand.
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
I can hear
I
you,
hope
yes.
Awesome. Good evening, Shweta. And what the images that we are looking here from Uttarkashi are very, very disastrous. It's very shocking. And what you rightly pointed out in the introductory remarks to your show, that these are largely a pattern that we have been observing of late. And these patterns are coming more in waves than in kind of silos. And this is a recurring phenomenon. There are two aspects to it. What you rightly also pointed out, that one, climate change is triggering a lot of these impacts. What is happening is the amount of rainfall that was supposed to happen across the monsoon seasons is happening in a day or two, or in a span of 48 to 72 hours. And the sudden cloud bursts are a phenomenon where heat has been trapped. That's the science part of it. But now question comes down into the man-made part. One part to this is largely fragile ecosystems like that of Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, and so on and so forth. These are fragile ecosystems. Fragile ecosystems have got a higher land use, land cover component which is there. And these fragile ecosystems have got a certain amount of carrying capacity. It is, if I have to put down in an analogical format, then a hand, if it has a capacity to hold on to, say, 20 kilo dumbbell, and you put down a 50 kilo dumbbell, then either the dumbbell is going to fall in or the hand is going to break, right? You'll have to have a fracture. That's what is happening with these fragile ecosystems. The more of these infrastructural built up area that have been created without understanding the climate hazards at one point is leading to some sort of a pressure or a stress scenario. And that stress is, once these hazards like that of a cloudburst that has been happening today in Uttarkashi happens, it becomes a compounding cascading impacts, because our ecosystems are not ready, our infrastructures are not ready, and third, more importantly, our communities living there are not ready, because you do not anticipate. So that is where it's a complex problem of climate change coupled with bad land use, land cover planning, third, with a lot of infrastructural kind of built up that has been built in without characterizing some of these climate impacts. And as a result, what is happening
Thank you for putting
rightly
that in
every year.
perspective. I'll come back to you. Thank you very much for putting that in perspective. So it's a compounding effect. To break it down simply for our viewers, what's happening in Uttarkashi right now on your screens, similar to what happened in 2013, it's a compounding effect. So it's bad planning, it's worsening, climate scenario, the climate change, and the crisis resulting in more frequent rainfall and cloud bursts coupled with unchecked development. That's what you're seeing on your screens right now, resulting in loss of lives and loss of property. Also joining us on the show is Namita Singh, our colleague from News9 from Dehradun. Namita, what are people picking up from where you are at the moment? आप देहरादून में हैं, उत्तरकाशी आपसे लगभग 300 किलोमीटर दूर, देखा जाए उत्तरकाशी 300 किलोमीटर दूर है देहरादून से। वहाँ इतना बड़ा डिजास्टर आया है, कई लोग उत्तराखंड के कई बार ये अक्सर कहते रहते हैं कि ऐसा डेवलपमेंट मत कीजिए, जगह जगह पेड़ मत काटिए, पर लगता है एक सरकार बदलती है, दूसरी सरकार आती है, हर वक्त तख्ता पलट होता है, लेकिन उत्तराखंड को कोई सल्यूशन नहीं मिल पाता।
जी श्वेता, आप बिल्कुल ठीक कह रही हैं कि उत्तराखंड में जो ह्यूमन इंटरवेंशन जो विकास के नाम पर ज़्यादा बढ़ गया है, उसकी वजह से ये चीज़ें, ये लैंडस्लाइड्स, ये डिज़ास्टर्स पिछले सालों में बहुत ज़्यादा होने लगे हैं। और ख़ास करके जो थराली एरिया है, ये वहाँ पड़ता है जहाँ पर कि चार धाम यात्रा प्रोजेक्ट भी चल रहा है। तो जहाँ पर भी सड़कें बनाई जा रही हैं या जहाँ पर एक्सप्लोजन्स किए जा रहे हैं, वहाँ पर इस तरीके की घटनाएं ज़्यादा बढ़ रही हैं, लैंडस्लाइड की घटनाएं ज़्यादा बढ़ती जा रही हैं। और इसमें देखा जाए तो क्लाइमेट चेंजेस का भी बहुत बड़ा रोल है, बहुत बड़ा, जिसकी वजह से इस तरीके की क्लाउड बस्ट की घटनाएं भी सामने पिछले कई सालों में काफ़ी घटनाएं सामने आई हैं। तो ये कहा जा सकता है कि क्लाइमेट चेंज और ह्यूमन इंटरवेंशन दोनों का ही उतना ही रोल है इस तरीके की घटनाओं में जो बढ़ोतरी हम देख रहे हैं पिछले कुछ सालों में।
से ये भी जानना चाहूंगी कि हमें सुनने में आ रहा है लगभग 50 लोग इस वक्त मिसिंग हैं, 4 लोगों की मृत्यु हो चुकी है। क्या उस नंबर में कोई चेंज आया है? आपको क्या सुनने में आ रहा है सरकार की तरफ से, ऑफिशियल सोर्सेज से?
अभी ऑफिशियली तो कहा जा रहा है कि लगभग 50 के करीब लोग जो हैं लापता हैं, उनका पता नहीं चल पा रहा है। लेकिन जो ग्राउंड रिपोर्ट्स वहाँ से आ रही हैं उसमें तो ये लोग जो वहाँ ग्राउंड पे मौजूद हैं, जो रिपोर्टर्स वहाँ पर मौजूद हैं, उनका ये कहना है कि तकरीबन 100 से ज़्यादा लोग हैं जो इस वक्त मिसिंग हैं और जिनका कुछ पता नहीं चल रहा है, और मलबे के अंदर काफ़ी लोगों के दबे होने की आशंका भी है।
All right. Well, that is the latest figure. People there, local reporters suggesting that the figure may not be 50, it may be 100. We've not been able to confirm that number. We'll try and confirm it for you. But the local reporters, Professor Vinod K. Sharma, Disaster Management Authority, also joining us on the show right now. Professor Sharma, you're hearing the latest that is emerging from Uttarkashi. It's a disaster-prone area. It is an area where people have lost their lives earlier. They're losing their life once again, compounded by what's happening by the way of rampant development, unchecked construction. Sir, I want to first begin by asking you, if somebody who's worked in disaster management and disaster-prone areas, what's your assessment of how can we really prevent this tragedy from, occurring and reoccurring in Uttarakhand?
Actually, cloudburst, as you rightly said, that this is highly vulnerable area. In fact, the whole Himalaya is highly vulnerable for natural disasters. But Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, the frequency of cloudburst is very high. But because of the climate change, we have seen that just last 15 days, there was 30 cloudbursts. In 3 days, 30 cloudbursts. I think this is this is for the first time we are hearing this thing. And same thing is in Uttarakhand, that there is no week when there is no cloudburst. So I think this is very unusual. And as we are, as we know that the impact of climate change is that there is unprecedented event, and there cannot be unprecedented event more worse than this one, which we are seeing today. I'm Vice Chairman of Sikkim State Disaster Management Authority, and you have seen that on 4th of October 2023, there was a glacial lake outburst, because in Sikkim we are having glacial lake, and because of the temperature, these glacial lakes are increasing in size. So Himalaya is having different type of vulnerability. But one vulnerability is this, that one hazard is this, that there are number of cloudbursts in this region. And cloudburst, it cannot be predicted. We have some, for example, meteorological department, they can identify that there are possibilities, but where it will happen and where it is going to happen immediately, I think this is this type of accuracy we will have to develop. And there are different type of radars.
Professor Sharma, are you saying that there are gaps in the technology available to us vis-a-vis, the disasters themselves? So the number of warnings that are issued to us perhaps are far lower than what actually happens?
No. I'm not saying. I'm saying that Doppler radar, which is, in Uttarakhand also we have Doppler radars, which is giving the, exact warning. But reaching this warning to the people, I think this is one thing, which is required. Now, you might have seen one positive thing, that because of the mock drills, regular mock drills in the area and preparedness of the state, all the community people, villagers, they were shouting and they were giving alarm, to others that you should run away from the place, and that's how many lives would have been saved. Otherwise, this kind of disaster where more than half of the village is completely washed away, the number of casualties would have been much more. So I think the preparedness is there,
There is some level
but
of
community
preparedness.
level preparedness.
Right. So there is some level of preparedness. Perhaps it can be better by the way of communications, and even though early warning systems may be working, they're not reaching out to the people just in time. But we do know that the tragedy that has happened this afternoon in Uttarkashi is massive. We know about 50 people officially are missing. Unofficial reports suggest 100 people are missing. Let's quickly listen into some reactions that have come in from the rescue teams, the rescue and search teams, including SDRF, NDRF people who are currently in the area trying to dig up people who may be under the debris. Listen into what they had to say.
जो डिजास्टर की सूचना है जैसे मिली है, हमारी जो सबसे नज़दीक की एसडीआरएफ की टीम थी वो मौके पे पहुंच गई है। इसके अलावा बाकी की 2 यूनिट्स हैं वो वहाँ पहुंचने वाली है। एसओसी के सुपरविजन में एक कोऑर्डिनेटेड तरीके से रेस्क्यू का वर्क किया जा रहा है। जो आसपास की एनडीआरएफ है, आर्मी है, उनकी टीम्स जो है वो भी रवाना हो रही हैं और मौके पे पहुंच रही हैं। इसके अलावा
आज तकरीबन 1:45 बजे हर्सिल के पास धराली गांव के पास एक भीषण क्लाउडबस्ट हुआ, जिसकी वजह से धराली गांव में बाढ़ आ गई और बहुत सारा मलबा और पानी उस गांव की बस्ती में आ गया, जिसकी वजह से वहां के घरों को और लोगों को नुकसान पहुंचा। ये सूचना इंडियन आर्मी की एक यूनिट जो हर्सिल में तैनात है उनको मिली। 10 मिनट के अंदर आर्मी की यूनिट ने अपने आप को ऑर्गेनाइज़ किया और तकरीबन वहाँ के 100 के करीब सोल्जर्स धराली गांव पहुँच गए रेस्क्यू एंड रिलीफ ऑपरेशन करने के लिए। ये रेस्क्यू एंड रिलीफ ऑपरेशन इस इवेंट के तकरीबन 15 मिनट में शुरू हो गया था और आर्मी वहाँ डिप्लॉय हो गई थी और उन्होंने अपना रेस्क्यू एंड रिलीफ ऑपरेशन शुरू कर दिया था। मुश्किल हालातों के बावजूद भी तकरीबन अभी तक 20 लोगों को रेस्क्यू कर लिया गया है और ये कोशिश है कि जितने लोग वहाँ पे अभी मिसिंग हैं या नहीं मिल पा रहे हैं उनको सेफली जल्दी से जल्दी रेस्क्यू कर लिया जाए। सारे आईबेक्स ब्रिगेड के सीनियर अधिकारी वहाँ पहुँच चुके हैं और रेस्क्यू एंड रिलीफ ऑपरेशन को पर्सनली मॉनिटर कर रहे हैं। आईबेक्स ब्रिगेड के डॉक्टर्स भी वहाँ तैनात हैं और जो लोगों को रेस्क्यू किया गया है और जिनको जो घायल हैं उनको वहीं प्राथमिक उपचार दिया जा रहा है।
All right, those are the responses coming in from the relief and rescue teams who are on ground doing their best to get people out of that sludge, mud, water that swept away through the villages of Tharali and nearby village with the twin cloudburst this afternoon claiming lives of as many as 4 people. Abhishek Mohanty continues to be with us. Abhishek, I come from the state of Uttarakhand, so this is quite personal to me. I saw what happened in 2013 and how people died, many from my own extended family in Himalayan region. So while as a state, as people of Uttarakhand, we understand the need for development, we understand the need, to ensure that the state develops, that it reaches its potential. I think what's essentially missing is where do we draw that red line? Where do we draw the red line between unchecked development and ensuring that the state develops in a way which is ecologically sensitive?
Absolutely. Shweta, first of all, my sincere best and warm wishes. I'm sure this disaster is going to get turned away. It's going to mellow down, and at personal level, there should not be much of impact to you or to your family members and to the inhabitants from our neighboring state, Uttarakhand. Let's not state it as development conundrum. It's not a development conundrum. Rather, it's a very dicey situation where we are thinking that we will be developing, and any of our development is going to be based on some of these by ignoring some of these larger kind of warnings from climate, from weather, and more importantly from the ecosystem, from the ecological ecosystems. So let's try to decode this, all of these massive infrastructure which have been developed and built in is very important. We should not shy away from that. But what we need to characterize us or feature in is we need to have these infrastructure planning, these developmental planning climate proof. And in order to do that climate proof, what Professor Santosh rightly highlighted is we need to understand what is going to happen in 2 year, 5 year, 10 year, and 15 year time scale. And that's where what we call it as from a scientific perspective is doing a hypogranular risk assessment. We need to have them. And then second is our technology is there to map what can be done in terms of how much of the impact will it be if there is a cloudburst of this short, or in last 30 days 13 cloudbursts of different intensities, how much of impact is going to be, what are the areas that are going to be impacted, what are the infrastructures that are going to be impacted largely. Now our approach towards this whole thing is more from a proactive, more from a reactive approach. Reactive approach is you have a cloudburst and then you get your NDRF teams, you start those relief operations and everything. We need to go one step before in terms of preparedness, and that's where it's a culmination of 3 tiers. One, you need to have technology based hypergranular risk assessment. B, you need to have a lot of community awareness and development. Third, what you can do is you need to build these infrastructures, or the investments on infrastructures need to be climate proof in those time frames. Then only all of these loss and damages which are happening can be averted. India has done fabulously well in terms of saving lives, but now is the stage when we need to gear up with our disaster management in terms of saving livelihoods and, more importantly, infrastructures as well. That's where, as a young country, as a thriving economy, we can actually save all of these loss and damages, and these ecological ecosystems can then be rejuvenated and rehabilitated. So probably that's what is the missing link currently in this whole developmental discourse. Development needs to be climate proof, needs which can actually avert loss and damage, not kind of contribute to the quantum of loss and damage. Shweta.
Climate proof, and I think climate should be at the center of all development. That's essential to a fragile economy like that of Uttarakhand. But before I close the show, Professor Vinod Sharma, my last question to you, sir. In your career, I'm sure you must have seen a lot of pitfalls, mistakes that disaster-prone areas keep repeating, and therefore the disasters keep repeating. If you were to give one piece of advice today to the Uttarakhand government by the way of policy changes, what would it be?
No, I think policy-wise, this country is, this is on priority. I mean, one of the nation's priorities is disaster risk reduction and climate change. And you might be knowing that India has launched, coalition of disaster resilient infrastructure. So we are, collaborating with the more than 50 countries and telling them that what is the need of disaster resilience and disaster resilient infrastructure. So what you are saying is, that the linkage between environment, development, and disaster. I think this is being, this should be, understood, more in a comprehensive way. And I'm seeing that there are very positive things which are happening in the country. For example, mitigation fund, which is earlier it was not there. But the 7th Finance Commission, the 12th Finance Commission, they have given the this mitigation fund, and now you have money in case you know that there will be more probability of cloudburst in this region. Okay. Then you can do some certain things, because money is available to you. So preparedness and mitigation both are our priority nowadays, and this is a positive thing which I am seeing in the country.
All right.
Uttarakhand, we know that it is highly vulnerable. There is no doubt in it. It is in seismic zone 5. It is having glacial lake.
All right. It is highly vulnerable. Thank you very much, Professor Vinod Sharma, Abhinash Mohanty, for taking time out, for joining us. It's a very crucial story. It's a state that has seen disasters on disasters. a result perhaps of unchecked development. We need enough scientific evidence to link that unregulated construction in hill towns to landslides and infrastructure failures, as we are seeing one today, unleashing in Uttarkashi, in Tharali village, 4 people losing their life to that disaster. Many are currently missing. They could be under the debris, they could be awashed. Rescue and relief operations are currently underway to find those missing 50+ people.